You're eating dinner and someone says something funny. You laugh. Mid-swallow, liquid fires into your sinuses. Your eyes water. You cough so hard your ribs ache. Everyone stares. You wave them off. Wrong pipe. That phrase. Wrong pipe. You say it like there's a right pipe and a wrong pipe and you just picked badly. Except there aren't two pipes. There is one intersection, no gate, no wall, where your food and your air cross paths 600 times a day. And the reason that intersection exists is the last thing you'd guess. 375 million years ago, your throat didn't exist yet, but its blueprint did. Our fish ancestors had a chamber in their heads called the pharynx. It handled both jobs, feeding and breathing. Gill slits filtered food particles and pulled oxygen from water at the same time through the same space. There was no conflict. There couldn't be. Lungs didn't exist yet, so nothing you swallowed could end up somewhere it would kill you. The shared chamber was safe. Then vertebrates crawled onto land. Gill slits closed. Lungs developed. But the shared corridor, that single chamber connecting your mouth to both your airway and your food tube, stayed. What used to be a harmless overlap became a loaded intersection. Two systems, one hallway, and now the stakes were lethal. This isn't a problem. They have a seal you lost. In nearly every other mammal, the larynx, the structure that holds your vocal cords, sits high in the throat. High enough that the epiglottis, a leaf-shaped flap of cartilage roughly 3 centimeters tall, can reach up and interlock with the soft palate. That interlock creates a near-complete wall between the food channel and the airway. Two sealed paths. Food goes one way, air goes the other, and the two barely interact. Human infants are born with this exact setup. A newborn can nurse and breathe at the same time. Jaw clamped, rhythmic suck-swallow. Air flowing through the nose uninterrupted. You can hear it if you listen. That quiet, wet, steady rhythm of a throat that hasn't been remodeled yet. Two sealed channels. Safe. So what changed? In 1971, cognitive scientist Philip Lieberman reconstructed the vocal tract of a Neanderthal using fossil landmarks and comparative anatomy with human newborns. He built a computer acoustic model and simulated what sounds the reconstructed tract could produce. What he found was definitive. Neanderthals could not produce the full range of vowel sounds found in modern human speech, specifically the vowels in see, father, and food. Their larynx sat too high, leaving the throat too short to shape those sounds. This was the first study to frame the human throat as a trade. Something was gained, a vocal tract capable of complex speech, and something was lost, a sealed airway. The larynx dropped, the seal broke, and for the first time in vertebrate history, choking became a real way to die. But Lieberman's study raised a question he couldn't answer with a fossil. If the larynx descends, when does it happen? And what does it feel like from the inside? In 1999, cognitive biologist Tecumseh Fitch put 129 living humans, ages 2 through 25, into an MRI scanner. He measured the length, shape, and proportions of their vocal tracts at every age, tracking exactly how the throat reshapes itself from childhood to adulthood. What he found was that it happens in 2 stages. The first begins in infancy, in both sexes. Around 3 months old, the larynx drops low enough that the epiglottis loses contact with the soft palate. The interlock breaks. That infant can no longer breathe and swallow at the same time. What was a sealed system becomes an open intersection. The second stage hits at puberty, in males only. The larynx drops again, further, and the throat cavity behind the tongue grows faster than the mouth in front of it. This is what makes a boy's voice crack at 12 or 13. Not just the vocal cords thickening, the entire architecture shifting downward, widening the gap, making the intersection larger. That means you went through this. Somewhere around 3 months old, your epiglottis lost contact with your soft palate. The seal broke. You were never told, and if you're male, it happened a second time. The architecture pulling apart again beneath your awareness while your voice dropped. It broke inside you. Now here's the part that makes this harder to accept. In 2003, primatologist Takeshi Nishimura tracked laryngeal development in 3 chimpanzee infants from birth through their first 2 years. It was the first study of its kind using MRI in a non-human primate. He found that chimpanzee larynges also descend during infancy. The same first phase, the same starter process, but in chimps, it stops. In humans, it keeps going. And then it goes again. Evolution had a stopping point, a place where the descent was enough for basic vocalization, but not so far that the airway lost its protection. Chimps took that off-ramp. We didn't. The vocal payoff, a longer throat cavity that would eventually allow the full range of human speech, was worth the risk. And the risk is not theoretical. The descent created what anatomists call the oropharynx, an open zone roughly 4 to 5 centimeters long where food and air share space with no physical barrier between them. The only thing protecting you is a neurological reflex, a coordinated sequence of over 30 muscles, driven by 5 cranial nerves, executing in roughly 0.6 of a second. That's the swallowing apnea, the brief window when your breathing stops so food can pass through the intersection. Every swallow, every sip, 600 times a day. When it fails catastrophically, you choke. Approximately 5,000 people die from choking every year in the United States alone. It is the 4th leading cause of unintentional injury death in the country. In Japan, roughly 4,000 food choking deaths occur annually, one of the leading causes of accidental death there. The risk concentrates at the extremes. Children under 5, whose swallowing coordination is still developing, and adults over 75, whose reflexes are degrading. But catastrophic failure isn't even the full picture. It gets worse. In a 1978 study, researchers placed a radioactive tracer in the throats of 20 healthy adults and checked whether it reached their lungs during sleep. It did, in 45% of them. During deep sleep, nearly half of all healthy people aspirate, breathe fluid from their throat into their lungs, every night. The system doesn't just risk spectacular failure. It fails quietly, routinely, while you're unconscious, and the reflex that guards the intersection is suppressed, every night. So the question isn't why do people choke? The question is why you were ever told your throat was designed to work. You've been told implicitly and your entire life that your throat is a finished product. That choking is carelessness, eating too fast, not chewing enough, user error. The medical language reinforces it, swallowing dysfunction. As if there's a baseline version of this system that functions cleanly and you deviated from it. There isn't. There never was. The shared pharynx was never redesigned. The seal was broken when the larynx descended. The only protection left is a reflex executing in 0.6 of a second across 30 muscles and 5 cranial nerves, beneath your awareness, 600 times a day. The failure rate is not 0. It was never going to be 0. You are not failing a system that works. You are operating a system that was rebuilt for a different purpose and works well enough, most of the time. And the rebuilding went further than the descent alone. Every other primate has structures in its larynx that humans don't. Vocal membranes and air sacs, tissue extensions on the vocal folds that make calls chaotic and unpredictable. Screams, shrieks, frequency jumps, noise. Humans lost both. Evolution stripped them out. The result is a paradox. Simpler hardware producing more complex output. Without those structures generating acoustic chaos, the human larynx produces a clean, stable, tonally rich signal. The kind of signal where vowels and hard sounds become distinguishable, where words become possible. Evolution didn't just move the larynx down, it deleted parts of it. Your throat is not poorly designed. It is precisely designed for something other than keeping you alive at dinner. It was designed for language, and the cost of that design is the unguarded intersection you carry in your neck. So the next time you choke, or watch someone you love choke, know this. You didn't eat wrong. You didn't swallow carelessly. You executed a 0.6 of a second neurological maneuver across a 375-million-year-old intersection that was never sealed for your safety. And this time, the margin didn't hold. Think about the other side of it. 600 times today, it held. That is not a flaw in your body. That is 600 successful transits through a throat that was rebuilt. Not for eating, not for breathing, but for this. For speaking. For being understood. Evolution didn't give you a throat that works. It gave you a throat that talks. And every word you've ever spoken was underwritten by a body making a bet it doesn't tell you about. Right now, between 2 breaths you didn't notice, your throat is about to close. It will open again in 0.6 of a second. It has done this 600 times today. Every one of them was the price of your voice.